of self-education and foresight. It is difficult to try to give advice that dictates the life ahead of someone else. Personally, I would not take out a school loan, even if theoretically it would only take 4 years to pay it off. To me, those 4 years matter, as well as the 10 years of mounting debt that leads up to it. I can easily imagine people who don't care about the debt, and they don't even notice when they pay it off. By that time, they become a successful doctor in their community, they are admired, and often go on fantastic adventures. In my mind, the schools must pay the students. A student should never be put in the position of debt, especially student debt that can go up to $1 million and cannot be forgiven by bankruptcy. There are no guarantees in life. We are too beautiful to be crushed by mounting pressures. Plus, it's not just about medical students or West Point officers. This practice of putting students in unforgivable debt applies to a person who just wants to have a nice college education. Student debt is an error. It is not fair for the older generation to stress the future of the world. On top of that, a job or a career is just a little thing. Our ultimate aim in life is to become a great being, making lasting contributions to humankind and leaving an inspirational legacy behind. Life is a one-way road. You can only amplify forward, and you can't ever go back. All those shortcuts, prized by many, really do work, but in the most terrible of ways. The wishes of skipping over the hard things are granted, as if by the twisted mind of a genie from a fantasy novel. A solid shortcut will bridge the youth with the old age and make the one doing the skipping none the wiser. As it often is, the world at large, too, has a few tricks up its sleeve. Just like I didn't know to call for help when my bullies came, because I said to myself, it's my fault, I'm fat, I have bad grades, and I won't fight them. Terrible things will conspire against you too, and it is hard to catch them before they happen. It all too easily flies over our heads. Already you are likely to be tricked into thinking that education is a chore, and likely you have failed to notice that schools are not functioning. That is what you are up against. Not only lack of knowledge and experience, but also overwhelming mediocrity and incompleteness. Incompleteness of things that you are taught to trust and would not ordinarily think to question. Moreover, things are already being stolen from you. Your insight, your brilliance and energy. People in authority try to force you to follow pre-made ways of thinking, rather than to encourage you to discover your own. And your own path is sacred. And then there are the numbers, the statistics that reveal the broken promises of schools and colleges. Though it has been a long time, I still remember feeling that school has been made artificially difficult. Trickery to convince us that it's hard work that works out if you work hard. I want you to imagine playing with programming for several years, and then really try to visualize the overwhelming pleasure and excitement of going to a programming school having already learned almost everything on your own? What can be more pleasant than a refresher course that meanders through things that you enjoy anyway? And if you skip school altogether and forgo the diploma, all you need to launch your first startup is what you have already learned on your own. Going to a school that deals with specific subjects, especially when you are already well educated, is what the real school should feel like. Learning on top of what you already know, extending your unique strengths. A school that punishes is just fraud. One of the most painful observations for me is the fact that if we get good at microbiology, we will still fail biology exams. The range of questions in standardized education is not realistic. It is nothing like learning programming and then passing all the software development exams at a coder school. In the average school, you still fail, even if you are good. The notion of standardized knowledge, one arranged by uneducated politicians seeking re-election or promotion, is an insult, an affront to the entire world. Pretending to educate has real-world consequences. Lack of real education is a terrible curse. We must reject what is broken, and we must learn to reject shortcuts. A school that is not educating its students for real is not worth going to, even if it offers a diploma and some promise of a job. Fraud is fraud. It will take you nowhere and probably put you in unforgivable student loan debt. Student loan debt is a terrible mistake that must be considered in full ahead of time. Debt is no fun, and it takes a lot of joy out of life. Real knowledge, real education must come first. Even if it is self-education that then requires going through a program to get it certified. Real education leads to knowledge and wisdom, towards love of life, and it offers a path towards greatness. We have to learn to get ahead of those that will trick us, things that will put us in debt. And we have to learn to jump ahead of ourselves and ask our elder selves what the regrets are. While it may feel that everyone is selling a different version of a solution, world's top-selling and beloved non-fiction books are still the best way to inherit true wisdom. Best-selling books are in a way voted on by the entire humanity or entire nations, and the overwhelming majority of those books, and especially those that reference each other, hold true wisdom. In an age where we can easily get access to narrated versions of those books, it can't be any easier to accept responsibility for a fine and well-balanced self-education that truly and deeply fits who you are. In a world where schools are not teaching, you will have to educate yourself, and ahead of time, and only then should you move forward. Going into a school that is not teaching and hoping to graduate is a mistake. But even if you do have a great school, the idea that it will put you into unforgivable debt for any length of time, and in a world that comes with few guarantees, should ring all the alarm bells. Your life must be lived stress-free. More than that, it should be lived beautifully. The journey that real education represents is one of the most beautiful things we will experience in life. Our progression forward is similar to how a flower grows and then blooms. It is very important that the flower is allowed to grow free and not be put through stress or drought. Finally, as much as there is to be said about career choice, where we work is not everything. That we grow up and bloom as great beings and make lasting, positive, and meaningful contributions to the humankind is the thing. A job or career, by contrast, is just a little thing. And remember that poverty is an error. That it is not students who should pay for school, but schools and employers that should pay students for the privilege of making their institutions better. Not only that, but a wise world, a just world, is a world that practices the prevention of stressing or fracturing of its people. It is a world that grants each child a free home and all the money they will ever require, and doesn't hold them back with poverty. In a normal world, standardized education is seen as a cruel and primitive practice, and people learn mostly on their own, but also through a personalized curriculum. In real schools, there are no teachers, but tutors that never fail to help a curious student find all the answers they need. Do you understand the full scope of considering your own future now? Not only do you have to face the unknowns, the fraud, the mediocrity, and all the unfinished things, but you also have to consider things not as they are, but as they would be in a well-developed and complete and honest and wise world. The only way to see yourself in time is to take to self-education so that you learn about life before you have to make life-changing decisions. One way or another, real education, self-education, is something that we can't do without.